Gen Z looks forward to being homeless. Freedom at its finest. Waking up on a park bench or around some underpass. Writing witty jokes on some piece of cardboard just trying to survive. Just joking. These days all it takes is crashing in a Walmart parking lot somewhere and hopping on TikTok Live to rake in as many galaxies as you possibly can. But in all seriousness though, young adults would rather be homeless than feel shackled to the chains of employment. Now let's hear a couple different perspectives on that. Now, if you personally feel like you relate to anything you hear in this video, or you just simply like content like this, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, opinions below, and subscribe to see my daily per weekly uploads around here around 12 p.m. Central Time. And a huge shout out to everybody who supports me on Patreon or all my channel memberships. You can check out all further details down below in the description. Now let's begin.
How often do you consider the risk of becoming homeless? Well, a survey from Acorn says that 1 in 3 Gen Z and Millennials are worried about becoming homeless at some point within their life.
1 in 3 Gen Z millennials. That's a third. 33%. That's quite a bit if you really think about that.
Rising rents are a huge issue, and this is one of the leading factors to some of these thoughts happening. They're more than 3 times as likely to think that they could become homeless than some of the older generations, and this study kind of dove into that. Obviously, this is an extremely concerning thing for a nation that is supposed to be one of the best in the world, and one that's supposed to have a great economy, at least compared to other parts of the world. Well,
the thing I don't think many people really think about is that it is really easy to shit on young folks and how weird they can be, but at the same time, and me being, I guess I'm also included in that type of thing, but I just don't really understand how people can't, conceptualize that the young folk is the future generation. Like, we are the future politicians, the future workforce, the future generations of society. So if we don't have any sense of like community, it's all just gonna cease to exist.
I think some of those things aren't exactly working the way they should right now, if that's how people are feeling. So at the end of the day, whether you think people are paid too much, or you think it's fine that some people get paid a minimum wage or whatever, we have to be honest. People cannot be scared to become homeless no matter what job they have. That should not be a problem in our country. That should not be something that people have to worry about. Let's pay people more. You can say it's going to cause prices to rise all you want, but people need more money. That's the issue. That's the bottom line.
Well, that's the thing, is that even if you're not worried about being homeless and you think you have some sort of secure job, you can probably, if you have a good relationship with like your landlord, if you can afford to cut off a few different things that you're probably paying for excess, like entertainment wise, you probably can afford to go 2-3 months without any source of income, any source of employment. Maybe you have some sort of savings that could coast you for 3 to 6 months. That's the goal. That's the dream. That's the imaginary. That's the new American dream, to be honest, is have 3 to 6 months of savings. I think it's the case that only over 50% of Americans couldn't even cover a $1,000 expense. I'd be struggling with that, at least right now in my life. In my early 20s, it was just fine. I could probably figure that out, but now I would probably have to go into debt, just like most Americans have to do with any sort of random expense like that. So what he's saying is if we all just made more money, we wouldn't be so worried about housing costs. We probably could end up having some savings. Because these days, nobody can save anything because it's barely affordable just to keep up with the bare minimum cost of living.
Back when I was a youngster, uni married, we were paying, 15, 16 plus percent. So much of our money every month went on the mortgage. So it isn't unusual for people of my age to be paying that kind of money. So I think that youngsters expect an awful lot more these days. When I was young, you had to save to do things. Now, because of this lifestyle, which is as soon as you want something you can have it, and you put it on credit card, and then it all goes, excuse my French, tits up, because you can't afford
it all goes tits up, excuse my French,
repayments. So I would say, which is very old-fashioned, don't do it until you can afford to do it.
Youngsters aren't asking for a lot more. They're asking for what you had. They're sort of going, oh, we're spending so much money on our mortgage repayments. At least you have one. Youngsters can't do that. They can't save enough to put a deposit down because house prices are so extortionate. This stuff is so basic. And I'm so tired of this 15, 16% interest. Like, it's such common knowledge now that when you actually apply how much houses are cost against your salary, it was way worse for youngsters these days than it was back then. In fact, rough estimates is way over 20% equivalent interest. So it's just such tedious nonsense, this, because stop pretending youngsters are being greedy because they want a house. It's just ludicrous.
That's the thing. She says just wait until you can save up and afford it. Saving is bare minimum, like I said earlier in this video, almost lacklusterly impossible. And at the same time, if you do save up, it's going to take so long to save up for a house or some sort of a bare minimum good enough down payment. where you're going to have to put so much of it on debt. You're going to be paying so much more interest versus your initial loan payment that you actually invested into your agreement with in the initial investment. It's going to be ridiculous no matter how long you wait. So you might as well do it sooner, because the longer you wait, the higher the price is going to be. At least that's how it seems house market is right now. Everybody keeps saying, oh, the bubble might crash. Maybe we're going to have another 2008. Who knows what's going to happen? The charts are looking rough. They're always looking up and down. That's how charts look. So I'm no, genie. I can't predict the future. But at the same time, I think it is kind of ridiculous to compare now the new age economy versus what it was decades ago. Even as far ago as some of these older folks who are now who are fortunately able to retire. They have that luxury. It is a blessing. Many people don't even think retirement is possible. It's one of those American dreams that is still most likely always going to be a dream.
Ludicrous. So boring, this stuff, isn't it? It's just so patently wrong, and yet people are still coming out with this absolute gibberish.
85% of my paycheck is taken up by rent? That's fine. Transportation is $15 a day? Okay. Groceries are 20% higher here? $20 for McDonald's burger and fries? I'm surrounded by scammers trying to rip me off that think I'm a tourist? I'm 50.
Alright, she's talking about being in New York, and honestly, if you do want to have a lot more business opportunities, a lot more job opportunities, you might have to move to one of these bigger cities like LA, New York. They kind of been switching over to Florida. I know Texas, Tennessee, all these places are becoming more popular. But it's kind of ridiculous to think about how even if you do go there, the cost of living is so high, you're going to have to be making way more than you initially were back home, whichever flyover state or not so high popular cost of living state that you might have came from to begin with. So there are so many ups and downs. It might be not the positive negative cost that you might be thinking of, but it's kind of funny how she's doing this skit, because there are probably more problems than you might be thinking about depending on where you might move. But I think it always is still good to have new experiences, and definitely I think your 20s is meant to I was just talking about this with my buddy. Your 20s is meant to test out as many things as possible. Then your 30s, you deal with the repercussions of all the things you tested.
Percent more likely to be robbed? My health insurance deductible is 30% higher than the national average? It costs me $400 a day just to exist here? The city of dreams is the city of financial nightmare! Ah! I love New York, but New York doesn't love me. 85% of my paycheck is taken up by rent? That's fine. Transportation is $15 a day? Okay. Groceries are 20% higher here?
I think this just got repeated. But anyway, it is kind of ridiculous to think how high cost of living can be, especially in certain areas. It is pretty crazy. I think I might put the video in there twice. Maybe I don't know.
This is interesting. They just did a survey where they interviewed homeless people and they asked them why are they homeless, and the results are really interesting. 70% of them said that it's because rent is too high, and that if the rent was $300 to $500 less a month, they could afford to rent a house. 82% said that, well, if I would have been given $5,000 to $10,000, that'll prevent me from being homeless.
If I would have been given $5,000 to $10,000, hey, Daddy Trump and big boy Elon Musk says they might be handing out $5,000 to all the American people. I am one of the American folks, so pay up. I'm waiting.
That's interesting. And listen to this, 4%, only 4% have said that it's because of their substance abuse problem. So let me ask you, why do we have so many homeless? Why are the rates increasing? And how do we fix this?
Guys, how do we fix this homeless problem? And do you think maybe one day you will have the same situation where you might be homeless yourself? Either way, like I said in my other videos, I've been saying I've been borderline couch surfing for quite some time now. In all reality, I've been living with family. I'm very blessed to have enough connections from my growing up. I have enough, some few family members that are able to help me out. Many people don't have any connections at all. And not everybody is a homeless drug addict who just ruined all their pathways. Some people just never really had any to begin with, or they don't really, you hope that throughout time you'd be able to build some sort of connections, with some people just aren't really that social skillsable, whatever you want to say. But either way, I'd love to know all your guys' thoughts, opinions down below in the comments regarding this new age homeless crisis, how it keeps getting worse. Have you been experiencing it in your local neighborhood? And have you ever experienced it yourself, whether it's you personally or people you've known around you in your life? And yeah, feel free to let me know other topics and discussions, conversations you would like me to cover on in the near future down below in the comments. And a huge shout out to all my Patreon supporters, my channel membership supporters. If you want to DM me personally, you can check me out on Patreon. If you want to see these videos before they are released to the public, you can check out my channel memberships. All the details and the hoo-ha on that will be down below in the description. And yeah, I appreciate all you guys for watching. Thank you for all the support nonetheless, and I will see you in the next one.